Good morning, guys. Today we are going to discuss about chapter 2 of module 3. The name of this chapter is the typical embedded system. So already we have discussed the first chapter in the previous session. Today's session we are going to discuss about the typical embedded system. So the first point here, it is called as, in that first view we are going to explain what are the elements of an embedded system. So in the elements of an embedded system, what are the major elements will be there is nothing but these are the elements that it is given here. So the first one is called as controller. Okay, this is called a single chip controller. Okay, second one is embedded hardware or software system. Third one is memory, and fourth one is input or output devices. The whole chapter, the typical embedded system, will explains all the concepts of these elements only. So the first one is the controller, single chip controller, which is acts as a master brain of the system. This is the complete brain of the system. What the controller contains is nothing but it contains either it is a microprocessor, or it can be a microcontroller, or it can be a field programmable gate arrays, or it can be a digital signal processor, or any application specific integrated circuits or application specific standard products. So the controller master brain can be all these items. One is microprocessor, microcontroller, digital signal processor, and FPGAs, and application specific integrated circuits or application specific standard product. So this is the main processing elements which acts like a master brain of the single chip controller. Now next one is the embedded hardware or software system. Especially this is used for some sending control signals from the input devices to the output devices. So what is the embedded hardware or software design is nothing but which is designed to regulate a physical variable or to manipulate the state of some devices by sending some control signals. So here in the previous case we have seen some examples here. The example is called as AC. So here the input will coming from the sensors and output will be given to the actuators. So here that we can take an example here also. So here what will happen here is nothing but some control signals to the actuators or devices connected to the output ports of the system in response to the input signals provided by the end users or sensor. So an embedded system can be viewed as an reactive system, and whichever the control is achieved by processing information coming from sensors and user interfaces and controlling some actuators that regulate the physical variable. How we are seeing in an AC, we are sensing that atmosphere of a room temperature and what is the desired given by the user, the room temperature, if he sets for 20 degrees or 27 or and so on. So the sensor senses the room temperature. According to that it will set that room temperature and it becomes cool, and it is passed to the actuators. So it is sensing the room temperature which is the thermostats, it will give into the thermostats. So that is called as an input, and what is the desired temperature which is setting to that room, so that is called as which is sending through that output called as output ports called as actuators. Here an embedded systems also. So here the user is going to giving that input, and the end users who is going to that output will be generated to that end users. So this is the way here the embedded hardware and software system will be utilized. So here for example keyboards, push buttons, switches are examples of for common user interface input devices, whereas LEDs in case of computers LEDs, liquid crystal displays, piezoelectric buzzers are some of the examples, common examples for output devices. So this is the input and output devices which is used for embedded hardware and software system. And another one is called as here we are going to explain about the memory. Memory system is major responsible of holding the control algorithms. So here the typical embedded systems contain some memory system will be there which is holding some controlling algorithms and other configuration details. What is this? What it will happen here? What is the main uses of the memory in the embedded system? Is nothing but for storing some fixed data which is done by the ROM, read only memory. And how we are writing that in that it is not possible or manipulated modified by the users. Here what is happening, the fixed data which is stored in the memory called as ROM. And how we can write the data into the ROM is called as, we are writing the storage PROM, programmable read-only memory, UV, EEPROM, EEPROM, and the flash memory. These are all which is used in embed systems, commonly type of memories. These are the common type of memories which is used in the embed system. So these are the control applications. The memory size may vary from few bytes to megabytes. Whatever the memory that we are using in the embed system, which is vary from few bytes to megabytes, it will be there. And sometimes random access memory for working some of the working principles to store some temporary data. The RAM is also there, but the main memory which is stored into that, it is called as ROM. And here in some of the control based embed systems, the controller may contain some internal memories. For storing the control algorithm, it may be EEPROM or flash memory varying from few kilobytes to megabytes. Such controllers are called as on-chip ROM. On-chip ROM is nothing but where it contains the EEPROM and flash memory, and the example is ATMEL 8089C51. Some controllers may not contain on-chip memory and they require an external off-chip memory for holding the control algorithm. Example, Intel 8031AH. So here the memory can be on-chip memory or off-chip memory. So that will be given some of the examples here. And input devices and output devices, which is ports and sensors and actuators, which is given for that sensor main core of the system. So this is the main heading of that, the typical embedded system, which contains some of the major elements that we are going to discuss throughout this chapter. So here the chapter explains what are the controllers, what is the embedded hardware and software, what is the memory, and input devices and output devices, what it will be there. So the whole chapter we are going to discuss about this major elements here. Okay, now let us move to the next slide. Here, what are the core of an embedded system? This is the part of the system core. What is the core of the embedded system? Already we discussed, this is the main master brain of the system, which contains a single chip. So the core of an embedded system falls into any one of the following categories. So what is it, which is general purpose or domain specific processors, application specific integrated circuits, and programmable logic devices, commercial off the shelf components. So these are the core part of an embedded system. So in this, general purpose or domain specific processors comes into one kind of category. In that, microprocessors, microcontrollers, digital signal processors will be there. The microprocessors, microcontrollers, and digital signal processors. Now let us move to the next slide. What is the so the general purpose and domain specific processor. Here, what is the general purpose and domain specific processor is nothing but general purpose which is used in general computer. Domain specific is nothing but what is related to an embedded system. Now let us see what it is, the general purpose and domain specific processor in an embedded system. So almost 80% of the embedded systems are processor or control based. Okay, the processor may be a microprocessor or microcontroller or digital signal processor depending on the domain or application specific. But even though some of the applications like industrial controlling and monitoring applications, usually they may use that microprocessors or microcontrollers. Sometimes, especially for some of the applications, they are using signal processing such as speech coding and speech recognition, etc. These will be used in digital signal processing, which are like manufacturers like Analog Devices, Texas Instruments, which is especially used for digital signal processing. Usually we will look into that microprocessors or microcontrollers, that we almost 80% of the embedded systems will be there, but sometimes some of the controlling and industrial controlling and monitoring applications, they are using the digital signal processing for processing any type of operations. So now let us look into that, what is a microprocessor. So a silicon chip representing a central processing unit which is capable of performing arithmetic as well as logical operations according to the predefined set of instructions which is specific to the manufacturer. Actually, microprocessor is nothing but already we learned about in that CO, computer organization. A chip will be there, which is that CPU, which is performing all kinds of operations, which is a general purpose operations will be performed. to perform that operations where it will be performed in ALU. How it is performing through the predefined set of instructions it will be performed. But how we are going to use that single chip? The chip will be designed by many manufacturers are there. So here what are the manufacturers are there in that the chip it is designed? Here is nothing but Intel already you know, which is very famous one. Intel manufacturers, AMD, actually this is the older one, AMD, Freescale, Global Foundries, TI, Cyrix, NVIDIA, Qualcomm, MediaTek, etc. These are the major key players in the processor market. Among all these things, Intel is the one of the leading one which is cutting edge of technologies in the processor industry, especially microprocessor industry. Now we are coming to the manufacturers, and which is the best one, how it has come into that, how it has become, the fame has come into the Intel is nothing but, now we will look into it. In generally, the CPU contains arithmetic logic unit, control unit and working registers. This is the general, because we are performing operations on ALU, which is given by the control unit. Control signals will be given, and for performing that operations some working registers are required. So here the combinations of the microprocessor is mainly combinations of hardware, memory, timer unit, interrupt control unit, which is performing some proper functions which is of dependent units, which is not part of the microprocessor. They're independent units. Okay, so Intel claims the first microprocessor has been done on 4004. Why we are especially discussing that Intel is nothing but Intel is one of the famous manufacturer to design that microprocessors. The other manufacturer also has designed that silicon chip which is of microprocessor, but that is not working properly. Whichever the processor is working properly, microprocessor is working properly, that it has become a famous one. So among that, Intel is the toppest, especially for microprocessors, not for microcontrollers. Now in that, the first that Intel has been started in 1971. What is the Intel chip number? Intel 4004, which is a 4-bit processor which is released in 1971. So later, actually this is used for calculators. So this is used for calculators. Later it has been designed some by the Intel company only, Intel manufacturers only, which is the 4040. Here what is the difference between Intel 4004 and 4040 is nothing but the program counter was 14-bit wide, and that instruction set has been updated, and interrupt capabilities has been updated, especially from 4004 to 4040. Now next again in that, in 1972, this also 1972, 4040 also 1972, Intel 8008 is also April 1972. Because here some of the lagging lacuna is there in that execution of that one, so the Intel again immediately it is manufacturing that one, Intel 8008 in that in April 1972, which is of the processor contains that industrial control and embedded applications, especially it has been designed here. Okay, so proper functioning has been happened, some which is that the bulkiness has been reduced from 4040 to 8008. Later on, immediately in April 1974, after 2 years, they had designed that 8080 is an 8-bit processor, microprocessor, which is 80 more new instructions has been added to this Intel 8080. And the same thing, Motorola company manufacturers, they came up with the Motorola 6800. Actually the Motorola has been getting fame from that this year only. So later on it has been started Motorola also. That time we are getting the Motorola mobiles also we are getting. So here next later on the Intel 8085, which is done in that 1970s, which is very famous one, which is used for to perform any kind of operations that we are using. So see, actually we are using most of the operations in 8085. So presently the Intel processing has been changed. Now in last year your seniors also doing 8086. Now until unless that when 8085 is a famous microprocessor that we are studying, the previous seniors what they are studying. 1976 Zilog manufacturers has been developed that Z80, which is called as Zilog manufacturers has been developed. and the person who came from the Intel company only, and he became a separated from that Intel company. Then he started developing a microprocessor. So this is called as Z80 in July 1976. So all these processors are working under the clock speed. Clock speed will tell you the fastest of the processor, speed of the processor, and high speed, performance, and cost of the processor, which is designed in the later on stages. After this, they have. So let us move to that next slide. The microprocessor. This is the history of this. First 4004, 4040, 80808, 8080, first 8-bit processor. Next Motorola has come into the picture. 8085 is famous one. Later on 86. Next one is 88. Next one 186, 286, 386, 486, 586. That we are calling it as a Pentium. Later on in that cases only during this period, Zilog has come in July 1976. These are the Intel processors and Zilogs and Motorola processors, which is performing some microprocessor operations. Now let us move to that microcontrollers. What is the meaning of that microcontroller? Is nothing but a highly integrated silicon chip. A highly integrated silicon chip containing a CPU, scratch pad RAM, special and general purpose register arrays, on-chip ROM or flash memory for program, storage, timer and interrupt control units, and dedicated I/O ports. What is the major difference between microprocessor and microcontrollers? Timers, interrupt controllers are not part of the microprocessor in that. Okay, whereas in the microcontrollers, these are all part of the microcontroller only. Built only it will be there. So that's what microprocessors, which is becoming very huge in size, whereas microcontrollers, which is limited. The size will be less compared with the microprocessor. Okay, now the microcontrollers is a superset of a microprocessor. Why? Because microcontrollers contains all the necessary functional blocks are independent working. They found greater place in the embedded domain in place of microprocessor. Why we are telling all these things is nothing but timers, storage, interrupt control units and dedicated I/O ports, which is part of the microcontrollers. Whereas in the microprocessor there are different parts of it. Separate memory will be there, interrupt control units and input and output devices will be separate. Okay. For example, in a mobile, our keypad will be inbuilt. We are not taking a separate keypad for that. So that is microcontroller, which is especially designed for that purpose only. Whereas in the microprocessor, it is not like that. That's what the microcontroller is, obviously a superset of microprocessor. Now, microprocessor can be general purpose. Okay, usually we have 8051 is one of the major famous Intel 8051 microprocessor designed for generic applications and domains, and application specific automotive AVR from ATMEL corporations. So which is general applications and domain specific applications, Intel 8051 has been designed here, and automotive applications they are designed for application specific, which is designed by ATMEL corporation. Okay, so usually microcontrollers are cheap. This is the one of the difference what we can show here in between the microprocessor and microcontrollers. Microcontroller is cheapest, cost effective and readily available in the market. Among all these things, Texas Instruments is world first microcontroller, which is TMS1000 is the world first microcontroller has been developed and manufactured by the Texas Instruments. Okay, now let us look into that. What is the difference between microprocessors and microcontrollers? Sorry, I forgot to tell one thing to you. What are the major manufacturers from microcontrollers are Freescale, Zilog, Cypress, Infineon, ST Microelectronics, Epson, Texas Instruments, Toshiba, NXP, Microchip, Analog Devices, Intel, Maxim, Sharp, Silicon Laboratories, Holtec, Lapis, Cyrod, ATMEL. Among all these things, ATMEL has got the high significance among all the microcontrollers. How we got in microprocessor? Intel is a major manufacturer which is leading cutting edge of all, which is leading edge in the market. Like that in the microcontrollers, ATMEL corporation, that manufacturers got in the high cutting edge among all the other microcontroller manufacturers. Okay, now let us look into that microprocessor, the difference between microprocessor and microcontrollers. already we know that one. A silicon chip, this is also a silicon chip representing CPU, which is performing arithmetic as well as logical operations, which is having a predefined set of instructions. Here this is on chip which is having ROM, flash memory for program storage, timer, interrupt control units, which is dedicated IO ports which will be there in the microcontroller. So this is an independent unit. It requires combinations of other chips. This is one chip. The other chips are timers, program, data memory, interrupt controllers. All these things are part of, it should be separate. Okay, so we have to require all these things to become a complete computer or to complete system, whereas already it is not required, which is part of it. Now general purpose design and operations, this is only as domain specific or application oriented. And here for anything in previously labs and all, to communicate with any another devices, 8255 is required. What is the meaning of 8255? Programmable peripheral interface. We are doing programming, the peripheral will be interacted through this 8255. We are doing our software program, we are connecting our program and we are communicating to the peripheral through this 8255. So this is compulsory, it is required to perform any operations to the peripheral. But it is not required. That inbuilt IO ports which is there in that, which is of 8-bit, 16-bit, 32-bit ports, or individual port pins are available in this microcontrollers. But whereas 8255 is an 8-bit PPI, we have to, every time if it is a 16 processor, should be communicated with the 8-bit 8255, or 32-bit or 64-bit should be communicated with the 8255 only. That is some of the disadvantage in the microprocessor, and it is good in the microcontrollers. Okay, here the high-end market where performance is important, here it is critical because only a specific market performance will be there. Here microprocessor will have limited power saving will be there, lot of power saving features will be there. Actually microprocessor utilizes more power and it uses very less power. It can be worked on batteries also in microcontrollers. Okay, that is a major difference between microprocessors and microcontrollers. Now let us move to the another application, general purpose processor versus application specific instruction set. So what is that application specific instruction set processor? Now let us move into that. General purpose processor or GPP is a processor designed for general computational task. So here in a laptop, the processor is running inside your laptop or a desktop. One small computational task will be performed here. Okay, so that is a general example that we are going to give the general purpose processor. So here GPPs, general purpose processors, are produced in large volumes and targeting the general market. Due to high volume production, the per unit cost. A typical general purpose processor contains an arithmetic logic unit and control unit. Application specific instruction set processor or processors with architecture and instruction set optimized to specific domain or application requirements for like network processing, automotive, telecom, media applications, digital signal processing and control applications, etc. So let us move to the next slide. So what is the DSP, digital signal processor? This is a very famous one, especially in electronics and telecommunication people. Here the powerful special purpose 18-bit, 8-bit, 16-bit or 32-bit microprocessor designed specifically to meet the computational demands and power constraints of today's embedded audio, video and communication applications. Digital signal processors are 2 to 3 times faster than the general purpose microprocessor in signal processing applications. Because implement algorithm in hardware, because the DSP will be implemented. The major differences between this is called as, this is hardware implementation, whereas general purpose processors are software implementation. So implement the algorithm in firmware and the speed of execution depends primarily on the clock of the processors. So here it is especially implement algorithms. DSPs implement the algorithms in hardware with speed of the execution, whereas implement algorithm in firmware, that is a difference, with speed up of execution depends on the clock of the processor. So DSP can be viewed as a microchip designed for performing high speed computational operations for addition, subtraction, multiplication and division operations, etc. So what is that? A typical digital signal processor contains the key units, program memory, data memory, computational engine and IO unit. The program memory which is for storing the program, and data memory which is of temporary variables
working on some temporary variables, data or signal to be processed. Computational engine, which is nothing but which is specialized arithmetic units which is operating on computational engine. Okay, next one is IO unit, which is acts as an interface between the outside world and the digital signal processor. So what are the major examples of the digital signal processing are this is fast Fourier transform FFT, discrete Fourier transform DFT, and sum of products form, calculations, convolution are the best examples or the usual examples on the DSP. So this is that audio video signal processing, telecommunication and multimedia applications are typical example where this DSP is employed here. Now let us move to that RISC and CISC. Why we are using the RISC and CISC is nothing but this whatever the signal processing, performance, power efficiency, which are all tells about that how the processor is working, processor or controller is working. So depends on that RISC and CISC only. So RISC in CISC already we discussed in the class also, I gave this to you. Okay, again once again we will repeat once again. Less number of instructions will be there in RISC because our ARM processor is a RISC processor. Okay, how many number of instructions are there? 48 instructions are there. CISC is general number of instructions, and RISC is implemented in instruction pipelining so that increased execution speed will be there, whereas no instruction pipelining features in CISC. Okay, and instruction set which is of orthogonal, which is non-orthogonal here. Operations are performed on registers only. Here that's what ARM processor is a load store architecture. Every operation will perform in registers only. But CISC it is not like that. It performs memory operations also. But except memory to memory will not perform here. Rest of all operations will be performed in the CISC. Large number of registers are available. How many number of registers are available? 37 registers are available in ARM processor, whereas limited number of general purpose registers are available in CISC. Programmers need to write the more code to execute the task since instructions are simpler ones. Right. Here desired functionality can be done with effect to more simple than single instructions. Here fixed length instructions will be there, here variable because memory operations is going to perform. And this is hardware architecture. This is hardware or von Neumann architecture will be supported. Already we discussed what is meant by hardware and von Neumann architecture. Now let me discuss about that one. The hardware microprocessor are controlled based on von Neumann. Von Neumann, which is nothing but which is the actually he is the father of the processor architecture. He started whatever processing operations from the first architecture of the processor is given by the von Neumann only. So the architecture shares a single common bus for fetching both the instructions and data by von Neumann architecture only. So here it is sharing the both what is that instructions, addressing and data. So we have a three signals will be there: address bus, data bus and control bus. Here address bus and data bus will be shared by a single bus, that is called as von Neumann architecture. So program instructions and data are common in main memory. There is no differentiating here. But in microprocessors or controllers based on the hardware architecture will have a separate data bus and instruction bus. Address bus and data bus will be separated. This allows data transfer and program fetching to occur simultaneously on both the buses. That's what. So hardware logic will be more in hardware architecture compared with the von Neumann. With the hardware architecture, the data memory can be read or written while the program memory is being accessed. These separated memory and code memory buses allow one instruction to execute while the next instruction is fetched. Here the hardware architecture is nothing but program memory, actually in 8086 which is supported by the hardware architecture. So what happens here, program memory will be separate, that we are calling it as a code section. Next one is data memory, next we are calling it as a data section. So here separate buses will be utilized to perform these operations. So separated data memory and code memory buses allows one instruction will be executed. Let us look into the diagram of this IO input output, CPU, memory, which are all sharing the common buses to synchronize in between the IO to CPU, CPU to memory. Here buffers will be there, channelizing will be there. Here program memory, CPU and data memory. Here program memory is different, data memory is different. So here to get that data memory as well as program memory, the hardware logic is very important. If that is not proper, obviously we cannot perform that instruction fetching and getting the data to execute particular instructions. It is not possible in hardware architecture. So the typicality or very criticality or most important thing is the hardware logic which is designed to get the instruction as well as data from at a time. So that is a very important thing, the hardware architecture. Now let us look into it. What is the difference between hardware architecture and von-Neumann architecture? Here the separate buses, which is sharing the same bus, here separate buses, easier to pipeline, which is low performance. That is that low performance compared to hardware architecture, especially in pipelining. That we will look into furtherly. Okay, so hardware architecture is high cost. Why it is high cost? Here to design that program memory, getting instructions and particular instruction, what data is required to get that only, it takes the hardware logic circuit is very important. If that is not working properly, it is not possible to get at a time from different buses. So that's what it is, high cost. So it is not there in this case in the von-Neumann architecture. That's what it is, easier one. Now no memory alignment problems. Here some modifying codes will be there. Your data memory and store physically in different locations, but here data memory and program memory are stored physically in same chip, but the memory's allocation will be different here. That's what here the hardware architecture and von-Neumann architecture will be utilized in different of the application domains and applications here. Now let us move to that, how the data will be stored in a processor, how the data will be stored in a memory. That's what we are looking to it. We have two categories will be there, big Indian versus little Indian. Already we have studied here. What is the representation here is nothing but the little Indian and big Indian. This is the little Indian. The little Indian is nothing but lowest byte will be, least significant byte will be stored in the lowest byte here, and most significant byte will be stored in that most. So this is MSB and this is LSB. So MSB contains the 0th byte and LSB contains the MSB bit. Okay, and this is here byte 3 will be stored in byte 3 locations and byte 2, and this is storing in this way. This is called as big Indian format. Already we know this, we have discussed in the CO very clearly how we are storing the data in the memory. That is very important. That's what in a RISC or CISC support, RISC processor, especially in ARM processor, it is supporting both big Indian format as well as little Indian format also. Already we have discussed in addressing modes, addressing mode 2 and mode 3 we have discussed. And the RISC processor is supporting load store operations and instruction pipelining compulsory. What is that? What is the meaning of load store operation? Because RISC is completely load store architecture. Why we are calling it as load store architecture? Because it uses registers only to perform any operations. So to get the data or operand value is specified in a memory location, first it is loaded into the register, then performs the operation. Once it is completed, again it stores back into the memory location. So only for loading the data and storing the data only 2 times it will use. Rest all in between the operation can be performed by the registers only. So the RISC processor, which is used in ARM processor, which is a load, so it is supported by the load store architecture. Okay, now instruction pipelining. So how the load store operations are performing here? Here one example has been given here. So let us look into an example here. This is called as an instruction. Here the instruction pipelining will have fetching, decoding, executing. Generally 3 stages will be there. Fetching is nothing but fetching that instructions from the memory, and decoding, identifying or decoding what it is happening, decodes the instruction to generate the necessary control signals, and starts executing what are the operands are required. That will be done in the execution unit. So execution and usually execution and storing will perform in the execution stage only. So here there are 3 stages. One is fetch stage, decode stage and execution stage. Now let us look into an example here. Instruction pipelining. Here load R1 comma X, it is loading the X value. What is XYZ value will be given in the memory. They are loading X value in R1, loading Y value in R2, and performing addition of R1 and R2, storing in R3. The resultant value will be stored in R3. The R3 will be stored in Z. The R3 will be stored in Z. So here this is the way it is performing here. The instruction pipelining, how it will be executed here is nothing but, see here, the ALU contains 2 inputs, R1 and R2. The resultant will be stored in R3. Again that will be stored in back in Z location. This is the way general schema diagram which is given for to perform this operation here. Now how this operation is performing in single stage pipelining. Now I have told 3 stages. One is called as fetch stage, decode stage and execute stage. That is the 3 stages will be there. Fetching, pre-fetching, what is the instruction is fetched from the memory, it will be fetched in the first stage.
Second stage is nothing but started necessary control signals will be generated, decoding that instruction. What are the registers are required, what are the control signals that is to be generated by the processor will be done in the decoding stage. Execution stage is nothing but it will start getting the operand value and start executing the ALU operations, and whatever the operations will be performed in that execution, and storing also done in the execution stage only. Now how we are going to perform in the single stage pipelining concept is nothing but here in a single stage pipelining, this is cycle 1, cycle 2, cycle 3. Now we can see in this diagram, this is called as fetching and executing. There is no decoding here. So here in this an example, there are fetching stage and another one is called as decoding and execution stage. So once the cycle 1 is fetching that instruction, the next instruction pre-fetching, okay, by that time it start decoding and execution of the previous instruction. Now the program counter is pointing the current instruction, whereas the previous instruction PC -1 it started decoding and executing. So during the machine cycle 2, whenever during this time it is start, see here, during the same time slot overlapping of execution simultaneously, parallelly, that is called as pipelining. So during this execution of the previous instruction, it is going to start with that next instruction fetching, because already PC current instruction has been fetched. So it start executing that PC instruction, again it is going to fetch the PC +2 and it start executing PC +1. So this is called a single stage pipelining. Already we have seen the pipelining concept very clearly. This is a single stage. In the single stage, keep in mind that one fetch is one stage, another stage is called as decode and execute in another stage. So the execute stage reads the operands, performs ALU operation and store the result. In conventional program execution, the fetch and decode operations are performed in sequence. Normally how it will performs. During the decode operation, the memory address bus is available, and if it is possible to effectively utilize it, instruction fetch and processing speed will be increased. But when the problem will be erased in the previous stage is nothing but whenever here, for example, let us look into it. Here in the fetching PC +1, already PC, the current instruction has been fetched here. So here it is going to fetch the PC +1 instruction. By the time it is identified, it is of branch or jump instruction. So what will happen once the branch or jump instruction is nothing but obviously it will flushes the whole pipe. So in the execution stage, what will identify here? It flushes the whole pipe. Again the address will be changed. So this is the way the operations will be performed in the instruction pipelining. So this is the way it is going to perform here. So it is overlapping execution of instructions is called as instruction pipelining. Now let us move into that what is the application specific integrated circuits, how it will be is a part of the processor controller. Now let us look into the slide here. So application specific integrated circuit, a microchip designed to perform a specific or unique application. It is used to replace the conventional general purpose logic chips. So here, which is designed to perform specific applications, here ASICs are designed to perform a specific applications, which is as a replacement for general purpose processor. Okay, so it integrates many functional units into a single chip, and most ASICs, application specific integrated circuits, are proprietary product, which is not actual product here, which is called as a proprietary product. So what is a proprietary product? It's single chip. ASIC consumes very small area in the total system and thereby helps in the design of smaller systems with the high capabilities or functionalities. Actually it is not large chip, which is a small operation it is going to perform here. So it is that what is that is performing ASICs is nothing but a small chip, very small area which is occupied in the total system, which is helping to design a smaller system with high capabilities or functionalities. So that's what some of the fabricators, they don't want to specify their names in that systems also. So ASICs can be prefabricated for a specific or special application, or it can be custom fabricated by using the components from a reusable library components for a particular customer applications. Here now let us move to the next slide. The fabrications of ASICs requires non-refundable initial investment, that is non-recurring engineering NRE charges for the process technology and configuration expenses. Okay, here if non-recurring engineering charges is borne by a third party and the application specific integrated circuit is made openly available in the market, ASIC is referred to as application specific standard product also, and multiple customers just use as a general purpose product, but smaller number of customers since it is for specific applications. Some ASICs are proprietary products. The developers are not interested in revealing their internal details also, because they are performing a small, which is occupying small area, which is performing high computational capabilities. That's what. Let us move to the PLDs. PLDs, already we know that programmable logic devices, that we have seen in previously ADE subject also. So logic devices provide specific function from device to device, interfacing, data communication, signal processing, etc. Logic devices can be classified as fixed programmable or permanent programmable. Logic devices can also be reconfigurable. Here the wide range of long capacity features, speed, voltage characteristics on these devices can be reconfigured to perform any number of functions at any time. Here the designers can use inexpensive software tools like how we have used in ADE, like Xilinx, test their logic designs, PLD based design, quickly programmed into a device and immediately tested in a live circuit. Xilinx, and already we have multisim we have done in the previous lab. So that is the way we can design that circuit and we can simulate it, we can test that one through our logic designs. PLDs are based on rewritable memory technology and the device is reprogrammed to change the design. So what is that? The field programmable gate areas and complex programmable logic devices are the two major types of program logic devices. Here FPGA is an IC designed to be configured by a designer after manufacturing. FPGA offers a high amount of logic density, the most features and the highest performance. These advanced FPGA devices also offer features such as built-in hardwired processors substantially, the amount of memory, clock management system and support for many of the latest very fast device-to-device signaling technologies. FPGA are widely used in variety of applications ranging from data processing and storage to instrumentation, telecommunication and digital signal processing. So that we will look into that. CPLD complex, here this is called as FPGA, which is called as designed for manufacturing. This is called as complex programmable logical devices, which is programmed for complexity between the PALs, programmable array logic, and field programmable gate arrays, and architectural features of both. Already we have seen all these things in our Xilinx as well as in our ADE subject also. CPLD by contrast offers smaller amount of logic up to 10,000 gates. CPLDs offer very predictable timing characteristics and therefore ideal and critical control applications. CPLDs such as Xilinx Cool Runner series are also require extremely low amount of power and very inexpensive, making ideal for cost sensitive battery operated portable applications such as mobile phones and digital handheld assistants. Okay, now what is the advantage of PLDs is nothing but flexible during design and do not require a long lead times for prototype, and distributed cell for ready to shipment here, and it pay large NRE cost and purchase expensive market set customer to order. It allows the customer to order. Number of parts are required when they need them, allowing the control inventory. Reprogrammable even after piece of equipment is shipped to a customer. So this is very advantageous one while we are comparing with the CPLDs. Here the PLD programmable logic devices itself is very advantageous one. Now the COTs will be discussed in the next class here. Hope you are listening properly, hope you understood everything. These are the basics that we are going into the second chapter. The main parts are controller, embedded hardware and software, memory as well as input and output ports. So that is a major thing. Thank you.